Well, good morning. Welcome to our Monday morning thought for today. This week we're taking some time to expand on what we looked at yesterday and Sunday morning in church, where I did mention that we will be spending this week looking further into the passage that we studied on Sunday, which is really Mark chapter 6 verses 45 through to 52, or as our Bibles call it, Jesus walks on the water. This incredible thing that happened that we are told about in each of the Gospels, but we would love to, I'm sure, have seen it happen for ourselves. Just the wonderful picture of Jesus coming at that point of need to just be with the disciples. And we need to remember the disciples weren't in any real danger. They were just having a really tough time. They were rowing their boat into a headwind and they were getting nowhere. And Jesus appears and comes to them. But this morning we want to really think about the thing that happened after Jesus has told the disciples to immediately go to the other side. And then he dismisses the crowd. And then we read this very interesting part where it says, this is verse 46, after he had taken leave of them, he went up on the mountain to pray. So we know that this is the end of the day. The disciples have been asked to leave, and we thought about why that was yesterday morning. But the fact that Jesus didn't have a boat to go to the disciples, he didn't go with the crowd, and basically as they went home, he went home with them. He basically cleared what was in front of him and had time to himself. Now, in doing so, he made the disciples basically get onto the water. The people had gone home. And from a scene of thousands of people, all of a sudden Jesus finds himself alone. And that sense of being alone was very real. Immediately, he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side to Bethsaida while he dismissed the crowd. So there's a sense that Jesus has found himself on his own. Now, I don't know what you do when you find yourself on your own. Maybe you're just glad to get a few moments peace and quiet. Maybe you're tired of being on your own, and maybe your reaction isn't great. Sometimes when we're on our own, we maybe just watch television, or we maybe just watch a movie, or we do things that we basically default to. Maybe you're the opposite, where you maybe say, well, now's the chance to get the cleaning done, or the jobs that I wanted to get done, or whatever. But often when we find ourselves in that vacuum and no one's there, the first thing that comes to our mind isn't always, maybe I'm speaking very generally here, but it isn't always that we need to pray. Very often we leave our praying time to maybe certain times of the day. Maybe we pray after we've had our breakfast in the morning when the house is quiet. Maybe we take some time in the evening as we're getting ready to go to bed. Maybe you have a different time of the day when you take some time to pray. But I wonder how much emphasis do we actually put on our prayer life? Because for Jesus, we know from reading the Gospels that Jesus spent quite a while in prayer when he was on his own. Sometimes we read he got up while it was still dark and went to pray. Other times the disciples came and found him in prayer as if they didn't know where he was, and what would he be doing that for? And some of us maybe think, well, why did Jesus need to pray? Sure, he was God. But there's this sense that Jesus, as the Son, wanted to be in fellowship with God the Father, and so he took time to pray. Now, we don't know what he was praying about on this occasion. There are maybe a few suggestions that commentators want us to think about. Some commentators have suggested that Jesus needed to recharge, he needed to refresh, because it had been quite an exhausting time, and that maybe there was a temptation on him to allow the people to take him, to make him this king that they wanted to make the Messiah the king, and they wanted to take Jesus by force, as we thought about yesterday morning in John's Gospel. Maybe Jesus was praying against that temptation. Maybe Jesus was praying for his disciples who were out on the lake. We don't know. And it doesn't really matter. We don't need to know. But what we do need to notice is that Jesus prayed. Now, as you've heard this phrase so often, if Jesus needed to pray, how much more do we need to pray? And I know you can say to me, well, Alan, that's fair enough. I understand what you're saying, but you've no idea how busy my life is. For me to try and find time to pray, well, that's just virtually impossible. Well, you know, Calvin used to say that he had so much to do, or Calvin or Luther, I can't remember which one of them, so much to do that day that he needed to get an extra hour at the very start of the day so that he could pray about that day. There's a great book called Too Busy to Pray, ? In other words, how have we made our lives so busy that we can't find the time we need to pray? Jesus found the time. Jesus dismissed the crowds. Jesus allowed his disciples to have some time away by themselves so that he could have that time to pray. Maybe we need to be a bit more proactive in our lives and create that space, clear that space for ourselves, so that rather than just sit down with a cup of tea and a digestive biscuit and put our feet up for a while, rather we can take that time with the Lord. If Jesus needed to do it, how much more do we? That's our thought for today, for Monday morning. Hope it finds you well and healthy and close to the Lord, and we'll speak to you again tomorrow morning, God willing. Thanks for being with me this morning. God bless.